Greetings everyone, I am the Mad Scientist, aka Dr. J. I'm in the process of getting footage for other videos and fighting LoL replay bugs all the way, so while that gets sorted out, let's do an update video on my Nami guide. I knew that I would forget to include something or other, or that a patch would come along that would want to change something around, so I'll do these video updates whenever I feel I have enough worth talking about. This particular update is going to focus on itemization to address the balance changes to support after patch 4.10, as well as a couple of other things. Let's start off with Ancient Coin versus Spell Thief's Edge. I still hold to the idea that Spell Thief's Edge is almost always a better choice over Ancient Coin, but I've had an exception proven to me that is worth mentioning. You've probably already looked at the game playing in the background and asked why I'm running the Ancient Coin path, and here's why. I was second pick for this game and went Nami out of habit, but was asked by our jungler to go Ancient Coin. I was a little curious as to why, until I saw that he was last picking Skarner. We didn't have a hard initiator, and would have to rely on running up to someone and hitting them with crowd control. Granted, Skarner can move pretty fast if he wants to, but that's a situation that I seldom enjoy playing in, and has been the source of more than one of my defeats in the past. Though I may not have gotten as much gold as normal, it allowed us more mobility to make an initiation happen, and I still managed to squeeze enough gold out of the laning phase to get Sightstone on my first recall anyway. So whenever your team doesn't pick a solid initiator and you need a way to get up to the front, the Ancient Coin path is a viable option. Our second exception to our item path involves Sightstone. Again, I stand to what I said in the video about grabbing it on your first recall if you're able to, except for in one matchup. Since that Evelynn is seen a decent amount, although not terribly often, it's usually worth getting Frostfang first and buying a Vision Ward at the same time if possible. Sightstone can still be useful if you feel the need to maintain bush control, but between the trinkets of yourself and the AD carry, that shouldn't be as much of a problem. So, in the case of Evelynn not being revealed by green wards, take Frostfang and grab a Vision Ward. Now onto an item that has recently been created for defensive supports, Ardent Sensor. I can definitely see it being useful on Sona or Janna, but is it worth getting for yourself? Let's take a closer look at the item. The attack speed passive on your heals can be very useful to improve wave clear and faster destroy turrets. The champions that you synergize the most with tend to be more caster oriented champions, so giving them a little bit more attack speed to help knock down turrets will come in handy. Late game, factoring in cooldown reduction, the attack speed buff will always be up, assuming you don't heal yourself. Its usefulness will vary depending on which champion you end up hitting with it, but it will be there. As for the other stats, the ability power is negligible, the mana regen is dwarfed by Chalice, but the cooldown reduction and movement speed is always nice to have. In all honesty though, I can't see myself buying this over the other important items that I need. Though Riot is trying to place more emphasis on attack speed, I feel that they're fighting a losing battle. There are times when attack speed is useful, such as for wave clear, jungle clear, and knocking over objectives. The problem is that in most team fights, an AD carry is a juicy target that most champions are aiming to horribly murder. Because of that, it's usually better to go for pure damage and armor penetration, because they need to make the most out of the few auto attacks they'll get before they have to make like Sir Robin and bravely run away. Also, in tight sieges, when both teams have good wave clear, it's a risk to stay close to the enemy turret for more than 1 or 2 auto attacks. Otherwise, you could get caught out, killed, and then your team is a 4v5 against what might be a weaker opponent, but a 4v5 nonetheless. I've won games off of catching AD carries out of position in a siege, even if my team was behind, simply because it meant their highest damage source just died. As a result, I don't value attack speed as much in the grand scheme of things, and between Chalice, Sightstone, Frost Queen's Claim, and Locket, the only time you can fit this item in is at the end. The only item this will realistically replace is Twin Shadows, so let's compare the two real quick. By going with Ardent Sensor over Twin Shadows, you gain slightly more movement speed, lose 50 ability power, gain 25% attack speed for your heals target, gain some inconsequential mana regen, lose the Spooky Ghost, and pay 200 less gold for the whole package. That's a hard choice, giving your allies a buff that may or may not be useful, or try to take advantage of your less than stellar AP scaling. In most cases, since later in the game you'll want more attack speed for a base race or to knock over objectives while enemies are dead, it might be better to take Ardent Sensor. You've already got Frost Queen's Claim and 3 other spells with crowd control on them, so apart from their ability to scout, the Spooky Ghost active isn't necessarily worth it. That being said, Twin Shadows is still a good pick, and I have recently gone Twin Shadows over Ardent Sensor in order to hold back an enemy late game. Consider Ardent Sensor as an item that you top off your build with, rather than a core item that you need to get immediately. To finish off with this update, Mikhail's Crucible has received changes to address its heavy usage in competitive play. Now it offers extra cooldown reduction at the expense of costing a crap ton more. Before, I had doubted its usefulness to you when there were so many other important items that you had to worry about, but after seeing so many different supports run it, I understand why it's valued. A heal and Quicksilver Sash active to save an important carry is nothing to sneeze at. The problem I have is that I'm used to using my number 1 and number 3 keys for my important item actives, so even if I get Crucible, I have a tendency to forget it even exists. Before, you could always make the argument that since it's cheaper than Unholy Grail that it's easier to get access to, but now that isn't the case. It's only barely below the cost line of Unholy Grail now, so one of the main attractions for getting Crucible over the alternative is no longer there. Unless the enemy really has some hard crowd control that has to be removed right this instant, you're going to find me hard-pressed to pick up Crucible very often. That's all for this update. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and best of luck on the fields of justice.